What's up, Camp Broadside? Troy Mosby here. How y'all doing, man? Hey, I want to thank you for tuning in tonight. We have a great episode ahead of us. We got my good friend, Mr. Derek Williams, joining us tonight. Derek is a fellow Missourian, and he's also known for putting down some big old bucks. So we're excited to hear a couple of his stories tonight. But before we jump off into that, man, if you haven't liked and subscribed to our channel, I'd ask you to do that, please. And if you dig our stories here at Camp Broadside, if you wouldn't mind sharing our channel with your friends, we'd greatly appreciate it. But without further ado, please help me give a big old Camp Broadside welcome to Mr. Derek
There on the
Williams.
tree line. Man, I gotta grab my bow. Ah! This is what I live for, this is what I die for, and this is what I eat and breathe. Yeah, looking real close, you can even see a tree stand in my family tree.
I'm telling you, that shit was the craziest thing I've ever seen.
What's up, Derek Williams? How you doing, man?
I'm good. I'm good.
Good, man. Appreciate you coming on here. I know I usually ask, hey, how's the weather or whatever, but you're right down the road, so I know I'm looking outside the window right now. I know exactly how the weather is. It's a rainy mess today, but like you said, we need it. You know what I'm saying?
It's been dry, that's for sure.
Yeah. Hey, do you care if I tell a little joke before we get in off into this? You know what I'm saying?
No, I like jokes.
All right. So, what do you call a duck hunter that can't quit duck hunting?
Uh, that's a good. What do you call him?
A quackhead.
A quackhead.
You know, you got to be dumb. It kind of sets the
Yeah,
tone. You know what I'm saying?
that's
But
good. A quackhead. Huh? Yeah.
yeah, sir. So, hey, I met Derek Williams several years ago. Funny little story. We got to go back a little bit, Derek. Uh, I'd been hunting. I'd been hunting this property for about 3 or 4 years, and I had a buck that I'd been chasing this whole time. And I had a couple close encounters with him, nothing where I could get a shot at him, but just close enough that I was hoping I was going to get a shot at him, is what I was doing. And so this went on. I chased him for about 3 years. I called him Old Gray. He was a big buck, nice buck. And I was just happened to be scrolling Facebook one day, and all of a sudden this picture scrolls by, and I was like, boy, that sure did look like Old Gray. And so I scrolled back, and it happened to be a local hunting group. And I'm like, wow, what are the chances? So I checked out the person that was posting the picture of this dead deer that looked like my Old Gray. And come to find out, he lived right down the road from me. So I contacted him, and I said, hey, man, you shot my buck, I think. And he was like, no, I didn't shoot your buck. I shot my buck. So come to find out, that's how I met Derek. He hunted down the road from me on some property. And that day we found out we'd both been hunting that same buck for about 3 or 4 years. And he was fortunate enough to seal the deal on that buck, man. And I got a couple pictures of it I want to show that I got here right quick. There's that one, and then look at that beast. Now, I have to say, I was pretty distraught to find out my Old Gray had been put down, but I was very happy that it was somebody that had been hunting him for several years like myself, and it wasn't just somebody that had a random encounter and got lucky that day, man. You want to tell us anything about Old Gray, Derek?
So yeah, I called him CrabClaw 8, and it was something he showed up. Basically 3 years before I was able to harvest him, just out of the blue. I've been hunting this area for 10 years. It's a real small tract of land between two bigger tracts of land. And he showed up late in the season one year, and I just kind of was enamored with him. He had a really different rack, real heavy, real heavy bases, and we called him Crab Claw 8 because he crab clawed at the ends. For the first year he showed up, I pretty much put all my efforts. He didn't show up until late October. That whole year, I passed on several bucks, hoping to get Crab Claw 8, and he didn't show up. Second year, he was pretty much a repeat. Didn't show up till late October. Kind of hung around through the rut and was gone. And I tried shed hunting him. Never could find any of his antlers, nothing like that. And he was kind of a ghost through early and late season. Well, that third year, I started looking back through trail cam pics, and he like would show up almost like clockwork in the same week at the same spot in the afternoon. And so I'm like, well, this, let me give it a shot. So that third year, the to the day that he showed up, I believe it was the 26th or 21st. I can't have to look back, but I set that spot that very first day that he always seemed to show up, and he showed up like clockwork, and it was almost like it was meant to be. So I was able to put an arrow in him, and I hit him a little back, so I gave him overnight, which is why in that picture you can see I'm just wearing work clothes. It was a Sunday night. I had to go to work the next day, so I went in till about 9:30, and then right back out there, and was able to follow a pretty good blood trail and led right to him. And that's him on the wall right there.
Yeah,
So
he was a hammer of a buck.
yeah, and then once you had reached out to me, you had one of his sheds, which I
Yeah,
ended up talking you out of.
yeah,
And that's kind of how we became friends there, is over that deer.
yeah, yep, yep. He is a monster, man. I had the first encounter with him. I'd actually taken my youngest son out hunting with me, or I was taking him hunting, and we pull up to the farm over there, and we get out, and he's getting his stuff ready, and all of a sudden he's like, "Dad, where's my arrows?" And I was like, "I don't know, boy. Where's your arrows?" He goes, "Oh, I think I left them on the table downstairs." And I'm like, "What?" So I was like, "Well, load up, bro." And so he loads up, and we run back to the house, and we grab his arrows, and we get back out there, and it was just getting light. And we start walking out to the field, and I'll be danged if our old gray wasn't just standing out in the middle of that field looking at us. But he was headed right back to that corner where old little Troy would have been up in a tree at. And I was like,
Yeah.
"See, man."
Yep.
And then another time I had him come in, and he was bird dogging a doe, man, hardcore. And they came in, they were probably about 60 yards from me. And she got nervous about something. She stopped. And I was like, "No, no, no, you got to keep coming. You got to keep coming." And finally, she stood there for a few minutes, and you could tell she just wasn't real comfortable. And he was right on her butt. And then finally, she just turned around and went back the way she came, and he followed suit. And I tried grunting and hitting some rattlers, and wasn't nothing getting his attention. He wasn't leaving that doe for nothing. So, but those were my two closest encounters with him, and he was a heck of a deer, man. Congratulations! I know it's been a couple years ago, but congratulations on him again
Yeah,
because
yeah.
he was a beauty, man.
He's still to this day one of my favorite deer that I've harvested. He's just got so much cool stuff. He's got a lot of bumps and stuff up the backside of his main beam, and he's just got a lot of character. And he was really the first deer that I um targeted. Some of the other bigger deer I'd shot before him, it was just chance encounters. They were coming through, they
Yeah,
were satellite bucks on the rut, but he was the first deer that I really had pictures of consistently for several years that I was actually able to harvest. And that
yeah,
kind of kicked off that addiction for me of letting these 140s go, letting them walk 130s, 140s, specifically because I had
yeah,
a picture of a different deer that I really wanted.
yeah,
So he was
yeah.
he was
Well,
kind of the start of that for me.
I'm the opposite. He was the first deer that I targeted that I was like, I ain't shooting another buck until I can shoot this one. You know what I mean? And I waited, not I waited and waited, and I never got him, and I got fixated on him, and I'd let a lot of deer go that I might have normally would have shot, but it wasn't too long after him. I decided I'm about done using these trail cams because that's what happens. I get stuck on that one deer and kind of lost a surprise for me. You know what I mean? I like that just that chance encounter and whatever. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, he broke my heart. But like I said, I'm glad you got him, and it wasn't just a random person. Hey, and we developed a good friendship out of it. So
Yeah,
can't beat
absolutely.
that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, why don't you tell us who Derek is, how you got into hunting and all that, kind of about your hunting life, and we'll go from there, man.
So yeah, I grew up. My dad he wasn't a huge deer hunter, but he introduced me into archery. He shot an old Oneida, a Screaming Eagle.
Oh,
We
yeah.
so we used to go up. There was a 3D range up off 291, kind of near like Birmingham. So we did that a lot. He deer hunted here and there, but nothing crazy. But we did that a lot, and then we did a lot of squirrel hunting. I still have his lever action Marlin 22 that we used to take out and shoot, and that's kind of what introduced me into hunting itself, was just squirrel hunting. I loved squirrel hunting. Loved just
Yeah.
being out there, being away from people, and bringing something home that we could cook and eat. So from there, I kind of, through my early teenage years, I kind of fell out of bow hunting. My dad wasn't, his Oneida went in the closet. I did some squirrel hunting, but then, as you do in your teenage years, you start trying to find girls and all that type of stuff. And I quit hunting for a few years, but kind of weird. One of my buddies, out of like randomly at a pawn shop, picked up a bow, and I came home from school one day, and he's like, "I got this bow." He's out there shooting, and I'm like, "Man, I got a bow." Well, the bow I had was too little. I was probably 10 the last time I touched it. And my dad had that Oneida in the closet, and he told me, he said, "If you can pull it back, it's yours." And I grabbed it out of there, and it was everything I had, but I got it back. And he's like, "Here you go." So I started shooting with a neighbor kid, and then um, wasn't maybe probably that next year, I decided I wanted to try to go out and shoot a deer, and went out, and at the time I was young and dumb, just kind of thought I was just going to walk in the woods with this bow and shoot a deer. Well, and I don't think I even started hunting that year until, I'd probably say, November, December, until it started getting cold. So that year it
Yeah.
was just all fun and games. Really, it was just running around the woods with a bow, thinking I was going to shoot something. Didn't shoot anything that year. The next year, I had kind of, this was before YouTube era, but I had kind of gone down to the local bow shop, talked to guys, and was kind of really wanting to really be into it. So that next year, I knew opening day, September 15th, I'm out there. Well, that whole year, I hunted pretty hard, for a kid after school. I had a job, so I was trying to squeeze in hunting in between there. I did not shoot a deer all the way until right before Christmas. That was my first deer I shot, was a doe. And it was just one of those things. I was heading in. It was probably, if I had to guess, it was probably 8:30 in the morning. I'm heading
Was
in
that
at
with a bow?
8:30. Yeah, it was with that
Gotcha.
Oneida.
Okay,
So
gotcha.
so I'm walking in. I'm not even at that point in time. I wasn't tree stand hunting. I wasn't hunting really out of a blind. I was just finding a tree and sitting down. So I'm walking in, and it was just dumb luck. These two does came over the hill, and they like ran right to me, and I didn't have an arrow knocked or nothing. We're looking at each other. I don't think she knew what I was. I had time to get an arrow, knock it, draw back. I'm shooting fingers or tabs at the time, and shot this
Uh-huh.
doe. And I watched her. She went 25 yards and piled up, and that was it. I was hooked. When I dragged that deer home,
Yeah.
I think even my dad was surprised that day. Like, I think he just thought I don't know. He just thought I was out there messing around with a bow, stump shooting at squirrels. But I dragged that deer
Yeah.
home because it was just right up the road. So I dragged it around the back, and I remember seeing hit, like, he was surprised, we were surprised, and from that day on, it's been a drive like nothing else for me. Like, it is an addiction for me, bow hunting.
Ye-
So that's kind of how
Yeah.
I got in. That's how I got into actually bow hunting. So from then on, like, I just kind of took off with it.
Yep.
Every free minute I have from September 15th to January 15th, I'm in the woods. I mean, it's an
Yep.
addiction. If I even just see a deer, it's a successful hunt. Like, I don't harvest deer, probably 10% of the time, but I just love being out there.
Yeah.
It's my favorite thing in the world.
Yeah. I can relate 100% because I'm the same way. It's kind of started out my first year bow hunting. It was kind of like what you were just talking about. Had some dumb luck, put down a little 6 pointer and a doe in the same day, my first hunt, and I was hooked, hook, line, and sinker. You know what I'm saying? It was over, and I've been all about it ever since. And do you rifle hunt at all, or is it just strictly bow hunt?
I've never killed a deer with a rifle. Never
Never
ever.
killed a deer with a rifle.
I went one time with a buddy. He talked me into going down south to, like, his uncle's land. Took a rifle. Saw some does at like 100 yards, and I was like, this doesn't even appeal. He ended up shooting one of the does. We sat right next to each other. He shot one of the does, and I'm like, at that point in time, I'd already probably killed maybe 10 deer with a bow. I'm like, I'm not going to shoot a deer with this rifle unless it's got a nice rack on it. So
Yeah.
that was the only time I've ever even attempted to rifle hunt, and it didn't appeal to me. I'm like, yeah, I'd much rather shoot one with a bow. Even during rifle season, I get my tags, I bow hunt.
Yep.
So
I'm the same
that's
way.
the only way. That's the only way for me.
Yeah, I used to go rifle hunting every year. I'd bow hunt and rifle hunt, and then I think It's probably been about 15 years ago. I was just like, I just soon bow hunt. I get a lot more enjoyment out of it. You know what I mean? A lot more satisfaction out of it. So I put down I actually traded my deer rifle for a crossbow for the kids to. I thought maybe that would help get them out in the woods a little bit, you know. But so I made up my mind then. I'm just definitely a bow hunter. That's what it is. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
There's, you
So
know,
what kind? Go
I was
ahead.
gonna say, I think Ted Nugent, he has this saying about like the mystical flight of the arrow, and it really
Yeah,
like it speaks to me. There is something about watching an arrow come out of that
yeah,
bow and just hit right where you want it that is so, I don't know, fulfilling for me. Whether it's a target, a deer, a squirrel, I mean, whatever I'm shooting at, when that arrow goes where I want it, it's just something like I can't quite describe.
yeah, for sure. I can definitely relate with that feeling, especially
Yeah,
if it goes where I want it to go. That's the key
exactly.
point.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
I tell my buddies, I was like, man, I shoot a lot. I shoot almost every day, sometimes 2 or 3 times a day. But I would think I would be a whole lot better shot than I am. You know what I mean? It's funny
Yeah.
because I can shoot a 3D target and just smoke it. I feel like every time you put a target out there that's got the rings and the bullseye and whatnot, and I'll be a little left here, a little right there, and I'm like, it's so frustrating sometimes. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
I do. I use that for a break. You know, just like before I do a podcast. Sometimes I get a little nervous. You know what I mean? Thinking about who's coming on and what we're going to talk about, and I don't want to stumble on my words and whatnot. I'll look at my wife and be like, I gotta go shoot my bow, and I'll go out back and I'll shoot five, 5, 10 arrows or whatever, and then I come back in. I'm like, all right, I'm good to go. Let's go. So
Yeah.
definitely get
It's
that mental
medicinal.
break.
Yep.
Yes,
Yeah.
sir. So what kind of gear are you using?
So right now for my bow, I shoot a Matthews, a Phase 4. I'm, as they would call a Matthews fanboy. But I just I love their cam setup. I love the smoothness of them. They're not the fastest bow, but for me, I shoot, 70 pounds. I shoot a 30-inch draw. So I'm pretty fast. I'm shooting FMJ arrows. So I shoot a heavier arrow. But I don't have any trouble with kinetic energy. I mean, I typically blow right through the deer. I got to go 60, 70 yards behind it and find my arrow. So for broadheads, I shoot the Exodus, the QAD Exodus. I love those things. I mean, I typically, even though I'll shoot a deer, the blades will be fine. They won't be chipped or nicked. I'll just replace them because they're so
Yeah,
cheap to replace the blades. So every time I use one, I replace the blades. But as far as the ferrule itself, I mean, they're just bulletproof. You cannot destroy one of those things. They are unreal.
no
So I
kidding.
shoot. That's what I shoot for camo. I run a lot of Sitka stuff right now. I'm gonna get some broadside
Yeah,
for some early
boy.
season. Yeah, some early season stuff. Gonna do some broadside. And, I just recently graduated to tree stand hunting. Within the last year, I cut some weight and felt comfortable enough to climb in a stand. I'm still at the ladder stand stage. I really don't trust to hang on, but I I want to, get about 50 more pounds off me and then maybe look into some saddle stuff. I think
Yeah,
that seems to speak to me as far as just being able to be mobile, just
yeah,
it's a whole lot easier for me. Like ladder stands, when I set one up, you're not moving that thing without a whole lot of sweat and
right,
effort. So
right. Well, you know me. I'm definitely a saddle hunter. I made the switch after I had a stand got stolen, and I had a buddy come out. After that, I went straight mobile. I was like, wherever I hunt, I'm gonna set up then, and I'm gonna tear down now, or when I leave, so that way there's no more chances of my stuff getting stolen and whatnot. So I bought the lightest stand and some sticks that I could find, and but it was still like packing 30 pounds around on your back, even with that. You know
yeah,
what I mean? And a buddy of mine called me up one day and was like, "You ever heard of this saddle hunting?" And I was like, "You talking about from a horse? What are you talking about, man? That sounds crazy." And he was like, "Nah, check this out." And he sent me the link and whatnot. And down the rabbit hole I went, and I've just been deep into it ever since. I here probably about 3 years ago, I think it was. I woke up late to go to one of my spots, and I was like, "Man, it's too late to go out there. I'm gonna get there after daylight and whatnot." And I was like, "I'll just go to this spot down the road." I got a ladder stand up. I had left it up in case one of my kids wanted to hunt it, or if I had a buddy that wanted to come. And obviously, I was at that point. I was the only one I knew locally that saddle hunted. So I left that up for them. Well, I went and jumped up in that ladder stand, and man, I felt so confined and restricted, and I felt like I was just kind of out there in the open a little bit. I did have some deer come up on me, and they come up on my right, and I couldn't really move with it because if I moved, I was going to get busted, so I couldn't even really draw my bow. But the whole time I kept thinking, if I was in my saddle, I'd be on the backside of this tree. They would have no idea I was there. If I wanted to shoot one, I could draw back, no problem, whatnot. So after that day, I was like, I'm done. I sold my ladder stand. I sold a couple other hang-on stands that I had at that time, and I dove off into saddle hunting, and that's all I've been ever since, man. And I love it. It's like you said, the mobility of it, being able to move whenever you want to move, keeping the deer. I'd say in the last probably 6 years, 95% of the deer I've shot, I've kept that deer in between me and the deer. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Or
yeah,
I'm sorry,
yeah.
kept the deer,
The tree.
kept the
Yeah.
tree in between me and that deer. And so they never even had a clue I was there. And the ability to go 360 around the tree is amazing. I love it, man. I'm like a tree ninja up there. I can spin around and take that weak side shot or whatever. I absolutely love it. So I say if you definitely get a chance where you feel comfortable trying it out, man, you need to try it out. And whenever you do, give me a call. I got plenty of saddles and stuff. We can get you in one and see what you think. You know what I mean?
Well, that and the safety factor is
Yeah,
unparalleled on those things. I mean, you're not you're basically as safe as you can be in a saddle. I mean, you're 100%. Even my taxidermist, he's an older guy, strictly bow hunter. Really, he's a strictly traditional bow hunter, and so being that, I'm thinking this guy's not in a stand at all. He's probably spot and stalk, whatever. But he swears by saddles. He loves them. He's like, I'll never go another direction. And he gets his
yeah,
trad bow up there and hunts deer out of a saddle.
yeah. I
So
know
that's
several
my next
people that.
move.
Yeah, yeah. I think you'll love it, man. It's great. It's just fun, man. It's a lot different than hanging in a hang on or like I said, crawling up a ladder stand. To me, I have a blast every time I go out and do it, and it's super cool, man. I think you'll enjoy it, man.
Yeah, yeah, I think so
Uh,
too.
s- so what are you? This deer we're going to talk about today. You shot him last year, right?
Yeah, yeah, he's
Did
the
you?
one. So I harvested 2 bucks last year. He's the one I harvested early in the year, and I got him out of a ladder stand. So yeah, so he was one that I shot last year, the
I
first one
got
that I
you. I
shot.
got you.
So
That's what I was going to ask if you shot him out of a ladder stand or a blind, because I know you hunt quite a bit out of a blind too and whatnot. But
hmm
so this one you got out of a ladder stand, man. We might as well dive off into this because he's a hammer of a buck. I know you were super proud of that. He's
yeah.
a good looking deer, man. I got a couple pictures of him right here. Yeah, dude. So why don't you talk us through that day, man? Tell us how it all went down.
So I'll tell you, this is we talked earlier about I harvesting a lot of deer off that little tract of land in between the one that you hunt and then another tract of land. Well, so this particular deer, I do irrigation for a living. So one of the customers that I have, he was kind of griping about deer eating his flowers, and he lives in like a pretty upscale neighborhood. And I was like, man, if they'd let me do some deer hunting here, I'd help you out. And he's like, oh, they won't let you hunt here, but I have some land. I said, really? Well, how much land do you got? He says, I got 65 acres up north, near the airport. And I said, well, I would love to figure out a way to gain access to it, and kind of I'd work out a deal with you. And so what we ended up doing was I now service his system, like free of charge. So I don't charge him
Yeah,
anything for his do all of his irrigation through the whole year, and he lets me, it's kind of like a labor lease, is what I call it. It's a labor lease.
yeah,
So I ran into that guy the year before last, but it was pretty much November. So we were kind of ending the season on irrigation stuff, but he still gave me the blessing to go up there. So I used that time to kind of scout the area. Went and checked it out, walked it, kind of got a lay of the land. I actually jumped up a decent buck bedded on that land. So that year I didn't hunt it at all. It was late November, almost December when I got my first permission on that property. So
Mm-hmm.
I started running cameras and just kind of feeling out the property, but I couldn't quite get a grasp on the way that those deer were using that property. So fast forward to really it was last summer. So I ended up getting a mower, what they call a Ventrac from my work, and it's like a 8 tired mower brush hog deal. So I went up
Okay.
to that property, and it was like probably I'd say early June, and I cut a path because it was all weedy, thorny, kind of gross, just real gross, hard to access property. That's why I think those deer were just kind of all over. There was no like solid path. So I went in about 40 yards off the cornfield and cut a straight path that runs the entire length of the cornfield and cut it down into the creek and then across the creek over to the adjacent bean field. So essentially, they had like a highway that ran from bean field to cornfield and then up inside the timber to the other end of that strip. Because it's this whole 60 acres, it's about 40 acres of corn, 20 acres of wood, which is basically a big strip that runs between a cornfield, bean field. So I did that and threw out some salt, I got the stuff they call wizard dust. It's just like a salt compound. Threw all that in there and threw some cameras up. Well, this is June. I'm getting nothing for buck activities. It's all does, fawns, does, fawns, does, fawns. Well, fast forward to, I'd say probably about August 15th, I started getting a few pictures of this deer. And it was the first few pictures I got, it was a rainy morning. So the camera was all, like, had a bunch of condensation on it, but I could see a good rack. So I'm like, okay, this gives me some hope for, something shootable in here. Well, he went MIA. Shoot, probably 2 weeks before deer season. It was 1st of September. I got a couple pictures of him, and he still had velvet on. This was early September, maybe second or third, but he came up that trail in the morning and down that trail in the afternoon. I'm like, okay. So for that next 2 weeks, he started becoming more regular up that trail, down that trail. I think that the beans started becoming more of a food source for him. They started turning on
Mm-hmm.
him, and he was really liking to go because that year my side was beans, the other side was corn. So he was back and forth pretty regular. Well, then the 15th came, and we had a hot spell, a heat wave, and he disappeared. I mean, disappeared. The 15th. I don't remember if you remember last year, 15th through like the 20th, it was like 95 degrees. It was
Yeah.
brutal hunting.
Yeah.
So he
It
he
was
disappeared.
hot.
Well,
I do
yeah,
remember that.
yeah. So I think I think I shot him on the 24th. So that day of the 24th, it all switched around on us weather-wise. The wind switched around to the north. We got like a 5 mile an hour north wind, which is perfect for the way I had that trail set up. It was just to the north side of my stand, and the temp dropped like 25 degrees. I think it went down to the high was like 71. I hadn't gotten any pictures of this deer, but I'm like, if he's gonna move, this front is gonna be what makes him do it. So
It's going. Yep.
yeah, I took a half day off work, went home, showered up, got all my stuff, went up there. The whole time I'm walking in there, I'm thinking, I haven't got because he didn't. Usually he would come east to west in the morning, and then west to east in the afternoon. Well, he didn't come in that morning, and I'm thinking like this isn't his pattern, but I'm gonna sit it anyway. Like I might as well. I got a cold front, wind's right. This is the first actual good wind cold front I've had of the year to hunt this spot. So I get up in that stand. It's probably 1:30, and I'm surveying the area. I had already cleared all the brush, had good shooting lanes. Texting my girlfriend saying, "Oh, it feels good today. It feels good today." 10 minutes later, I look back over my shoulder down that trail, and I'll be damned if this deer isn't coming up the trail. I mean, he
Oh
is coming right,
boy.
and of course, it's the first deer I saw of the entire season, really. So I get my bow off the
Wow.
hanger. I'm shaking like a leaf. Well, he gets to that 30-yard point, and he kind of hangs up, but he's not looking my direction. He's looking the other direction. So I drew back on him, and I didn't have a good clear shot, so I kept waiting for him. I drew back on him, and he's looking back down the hill, looking back down the hill, and he froze it. I had to be at draw for 2 minutes. So he was looking away. I let down. As soon as I let down, he turns and starts walking, and he's coming right up the trail. And I had it to where it kind of intersected me at like 14 yards. He came straight to that shooting lane. I had it 14 yards. I drew back, and he stopped, looked right up at me, and I was already anchored on him, and just boom, and I let him have it. And it was one of those shots where I saw the arrow go right where I wanted it to go.
Yeah,
And
baby.
he kind of did like two bounds and stopped. And I saw him doing the wobble, but it was early season, so there were still leaves everywhere. I could just barely see his rack. Well, then I saw him jump like two more times, and then I didn't see it. I didn't get to see him fall because of where he went. He had gone like
Yeah.
right behind some brush. So of course I'm like, I call my old lady. I'm like, oh, I just shot that deer. I just shot that deer, and I'm shaking. I'm in like a little single man ladder. So I'm like, I got to get down. I'm going to get down and just sit at the bottom of this tree for a minute. Well, as soon as I got down, I could see where I had hit him was blood. I mean, it was everywhere. He sprayed like two or three trees. So I sat there for a minute and made the decision. I wanted to go get my arrow. Like, I just want to get my arrow and look at it. So as soon as I got to the arrow, I picked it up, looked at it, smelled it. It was all good. And then I looked up and I could see half his rack. He's laying on the ground.
Oh
So of course
yeah.
it's, at that point it's celebration time. I'm FaceTiming her. Like, oh, and so she's like, well, do you need help getting him out? I'm like, no, it was a lot of downhill drag to, down to the road. It was probably about 150 yards. So I get a hold of him and start trying to drag him and realize this deer is a bruiser. It took me, so I had like 50 yards uphill before I got to the field edge, and then it was all downhill. For that 50 yards, it took me like 20 minutes. I could get like one pull, and then I had to hang out for a second. One pull. So I ended up calling her, and I was like, "Hey, I'm gonna have a buddy come, but the three of us would probably be good to drag this freaking deer out." So I got him up there. They showed up. We did all the pictures and stuff at the cornfield, and worked out well. Even after I had field dressed him, and it still took two of us quite a while to drag him downhill. After field dressing him, he was 240. That's field dress
Woo,
weight.
man.
So they're thinking he was somewhere in the 280 to 285 range.
Yeah, he was a
I
hog for
mean,
sure.
well, and when I first, I was kind of on the fence, because that was like that. Am I going to shoot this deer? He's right at that 145 ish range. But when I saw the size of this deer's body, I was like, this deer's going, dude. I'm shooting this deer. I mean, when I first laid eyes on
Oh
him, I knew
yeah.
he was a tank. I mean, he was just a giant bodied deer. So, and that kind of dwarfed his rack. I didn't think he'd break 150, and he did. He just barely broke it. He was like 153 with all the kickers and junk. But super stoked. I mean, that was my first real sit on that new lease, and it was just one of those moments where I wasn't gonna let that deer walk. When I finally laid eyes on him, I'm like, he's getting an arrow. So
Oh yeah, for sure.
yeah,
That's what I look for the most. Everybody wants the big monster rack. You know what I mean? And obviously I do too. But if I get a mature deer that comes in that's got a body like that one had on it, yeah, he needs. I'm smoking him. You know what I mean? That's a
yeah,
lot of meat in the
yeah.
freezer. You know what I mean? Yeah,
He,
buddy.
he the amount of meat when I went to Nadler's and picked him up, because I've taken two does up there before at a time. The amount of meat I got off him was the equivalent to two does. I mean, the boxes filled my whole back seat up. I mean, it was. I had to go to
Yeah,
Menards on the way home and buy a deep freezer for that deer because he was giant. He
yeah,
was huge.
yeah. Well, and you did
So
send me the picture of the where your buddy's laying down next to him, and you
yeah,
can see
yeah,
just
yeah,
how big that Joker is for sure. You know what I mean? He's
yeah,
definitely a monster, boy.
yeah. And my buddy, he's in the 160 range.
So
155, 160, depending on
that was your first hunt ever on that land, that property?
first real hunt. So the year
First
before
real
I
hunt.
had scouted it, but I had my bow when we walked around. Um, and I just scouted it. So essentially, I was just trying to get the lay of the land, had my bow just in case
Yeah.
something crazy happened. But that was my first hunt, actual hunt. We set those stands up, in the summer at the same day that I mowed that big path. When I set the stands up, and that was my first real hunt on that ground, first time
So
ever.
what? So what do you when you go into a spot like that spot, for example? You went in something about where you decided to set up. What led you to that spot? Like what sign were you seeing? What do you look for when you go into a new spot? You know what I mean?
So typically, like especially like it was such a funky year because the first year I went in there it was like November, so we had rut activity. So when I went in there that the first year kind of scouting it, I was looking for rubs and especially scrapes. Um, but everything seemed to be on the field edge, which doesn't surprise me. You know, that's just how those deer are. They like walking those field edges. Um, but it was so overgrown in there, I couldn't. I would have hunted it a little harder late season that year, but wasn't a good spot to set up an ambush. So that's kind of why that year I took a weed eater in the first year and just cleared a spot and set a camera and put salt out. But I could not find something in there that was like, this is where you need to be. There was one little section that they had logged in the years previous, and it was more open than the rest, but it still had all the underbrush. So it was like I knew in order to hunt that property, it wasn't going to be throw up a pop-up blind. It was going to be you need to get something set up, you need to get it prepped, you need to get a stand. So that's why I kind of used it that year before. And I had two deer that I had gotten pictures of late in the year. One of them, he was an injured deer. He's carrying a back leg, but he's a big deer. He's got one real good side, and then the other side is just like a giant spike with like junk all over it. So
Mm,
that was one of the deer I thought that I would shoot or try to shoot last year. And then I have
yeah.
another deer, which I found one of his sheds. He's big. He's real big. He's got both his main beams curve in real tight at the front, and then he's got like crab claws on the front. He's super cool, but I
Yeah.
never got any pictures of him last year at all. Not one picture of that deer. I did end up finding his shed, so he's just a ghost. But the deer that I shot, he just kind of showed up. So that first year scouting, there was nothing I could key in on to be like, this is where I need. So that's why we decided, let's take the Ventrac in there. Let's clear that
Yeah.
trail. Let's make what we want to work for us. And as soon as I did that, those deer, I started getting way more pictures of deer. And it was the same salt lick, same, mineral block lick that I was using from the year before. It's just, I had given those deer a very clear trail that was still inside the timber. They still felt safe. They still felt covered and they were using it. I mean, using it like you'd never. And even so,
Yeah.
this year, I've already gone in there once. I'll probably have to mow twice, but I went in there um, early May and mowed that down, put new batteries in that camera, and all the does are in there with the fawns. I didn't get any fawn pictures last year. Now the does are using it; they're fawning in there. So it's just I kind of had to make something on this property. Obviously, they had the food with the corn and beans and alternating those fields, but they didn't have anything that was real solid for them to feel safe and have good movement inside the timber. So
Yeah. And they're a lot
mowing that
like
strip
us.
for me.
They're gonna take that path of least resistance. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? They're that's what they're looking for. I think. Did you have it? Did you come across any? You said you were looking for scrapes. Did you find scrapes near that area or bedding
So they
areas,
were all
anything like that?
the bedding was in there. They were definitely bedding in there because it was that thick, but there was not a hard trail that they were using. Like there would be a hard entrance into the timber, and then they would just spider out. They were just going everywhere. There wasn't like a one main trail that they were using.
Yeah.
But there was a lot of scrapes around the whole timber, like on the outside, around in the corn side, in the bean side, everywhere. So I knew that they were in the area. I just had to make them some sort of a habitat improvement that I could basically guarantee, hey, they're gonna come in front of me. Not
Right.
they're gonna hit this timber and just go wherever they want. Like I gave
Spread.
them a nice I just gave them a nice trail and those deer used it. I mean, they used it like nobody's business.
Yeah.
They're
I
still
do
using it
that.
today. I mean,
I do that at a property I hunt. I make sure I take out there. I got one of the metal blades on my weed eater, and I'll go out there and I'll just clear me a big path. For one, certain areas I do that because it helps me to get into my area without going through the brush and trying to be as quiet as possible. But I have noticed, just like what you're saying, when I do that, them deer they're going to use that path at least till
yep,
they find a reason not to. But if they can
yeah.
use it, they're going to use. Do you hunt any public land at all, or is it all just private?
It's pretty much all private. I've hunted over the years some public land around here, and it's hard to get that quality of deer. Now I shed hunt a lot of public, and I find a lot of nice sheds on public, so I know the deer are there. It's just, I think the pressure and the conservation department in Missouri, they do a good job. Like there's some food plots on some of these public grounds. They do some work. It's just like I said earlier, I like to get away from people. I like to do my thing, and the business I'm in puts me in contact with a lot of folks that just happen to own, and it's nothing huge, but small tracts of land here and there,
Yeah,
and I can usually basically trade labor to get them. I got a
yeah,
couple
you
now
can't beat
that I do
that.
that with, so
Yeah.
it's beautiful.
Yeah, I'm getting more and more into mobile just because I don't know. There's just something about when I hear these stories and see pictures and stuff and videos of people that are hunting public land when they land a big mature deer, whether it's just a big mature doe or a big mature buck, and they get it on public land. I feel like you've done something. You know what I'm saying? Uh,
Absolutely, yeah.
and so it kind of gets me to where I want to do that. You know what I mean? So about the last 2 years, I've really been getting more and more into it. Plus, we were talking about saddle hunting. I feel like I have a great setup to be mobile between my sticks, my saddles, my platform, everything, my camo that works with my saddle system. You know what I'm saying? I feel like I have this just a great setup. And so when I go out to my presets that are on private land, I'm kind of like, yeah, this is cool. I can just climb the tree and I still saddle hunt, you know what I mean? But I'm like, there's something about just getting deep into the woods, trying to get as far away from the people as you can, and looking for good sign. You know what I mean? I'm starting to learn more into. I've actually talked to a guy the other day on a podcast, and starting to dive a little bit more into thermals and stuff, and trying to learn about those. You know, that's something I've never personally paid a lot of attention to. I do pay attention to the wind and stuff, but those thermals, that's a lot deeper thing going on there. You know what I'm saying? But from what
Yeah.
I've read and what I've heard, I mean, there's a lot of you can find out a lot of information from which way those thermals are going. You know what I mean? Have you ever
So
jacked
I
around
got
with any of that?
thermals I don't mess with, mostly because around here there's not much elevation change for me. But I've got family in Pennsylvania, and he's a deer hunter. He's a young, I think he's 16 now, but he lives by thermals. He's like, the wind direction, don't even look at it because the thermals will throw it all out of whack. He's like, no matter what, if you got the right wind, but you're not hunting the thermals right, those deer are gonna bust you.
Yeah,
So
my
it's nothing.
buddy.
I don't have to do it too much, but I do know that it makes a big difference if you're hunting in areas that have a lot of elevation change.
Yeah, I got a buddy, Christopher Leopard. He runs the Mobile Hunters Expo, and he's one I've listened to talk about thermals and stuff, and he's big into that. But and I think you might be right. I think he does hunt. He's out in Ohio, so I think he's got a lot different elevation than what we got here. But
Hmm.
I'm sure it definitely still works here, and I'm gonna dive a little bit more into it and just see. I know back in the back of one of my spots, as me and Chris were talking, that I have it's like a almost like a canyon that runs back with a creek in the bottom of it. And when I was listening to what he was saying about thermals and stuff, and I was picturing being out there, and I thought, I guarantee you those that if I check those thermals, it's going right down in the bottom of that down there by that creek. I know a spot, and I'm like, so I'm already envisioning. Okay, I gotta get in a tree around that spot. You know what I mean, and check it out for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I think it
Uh,
can be real important depending on where you're at.
yeah. Hey, how many did you shoot any other deer last year? I know you said you shot another buck, I guess, right?
Yeah. So I don't know if you can see him, but this one on the corner, just right by old Gray, right here, he's the other one I
Yep.
shot,
The one
and
on the
he's
shelf.
pretty solid. Yeah, I'll grab him.
Yeah.
So this is a real good deer. I actually had some sheds from him last year too, and the year before. He's real heavy at the bases.
Yeah.
He's got some funky characters, some junk, but that's the other deer that I harvested last year,
Yeah. That's a
and
nice one
he's a good
too.
deer. So he's not
Uh,
the highest score. I think he's barely in the 140s, but he's a beautiful deer. I couldn't pass him up,
how was the body on that one?
especially.
Was he in the same area as the other one?
No, so he was local to us. He was right around here.
I got
So
you.
he wasn't a big body. You know these deer, they eat acorns and
Yeah.
sticks. and somebody's flowers probably, but not a real big body. But he was also an older deer. I got his last year's left side, and then I have his year before match set. So he's but so the history on him, I had to take him. Once he showed up in front of me and I realized who it was, I'm like, yep, because he's not real impressive from the side, but from the front and back. So like, when he came in on me last year, I was like, I'm gonna let him walk. And then when I got a view from him from the back, I realized it was that deer, and I'm like, nope, nope, I'm not letting him walk.
Right.
So yeah, he was my other deer.
Yeah. So
But yeah, that's
I just I was going to tell you because you was talking about those QAD Exodus. Do you use
uh-huh.
the SWEP or the full?
Look, I use the full.
Do you? Now I
Yeah,
just
yeah,
I'm making the switch. I know you and I talked about it several years ago about those QADs, and I've been shooting Grim Reapers, whitetail special mechanicals. So I this year I'm making the switch. I'm jumping into the QAD Exodus. Uh, I think I might give the SWEP a whirl and see how I like them. You know what I mean? See how they fly
yeah,
and
yeah.
whatnot. Is there
I
a
think for
reason
me, the
you,
reason
you
I was going to tell you, I think the reason I went with the full is because the shop that I use up there at B&B, the first time I ever bought them, that's all they had was the full. I didn't know there was a sweat option. Now that I know
got you?
they have both, but I was already committed to the fulls and I just stuck with it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm excited, man. I'm excited to put one in a deer and see what happens. Because, like I said, I know you and several other people I talked to that they absolutely love QADs. So I'm
Yeah,
super
they're amazing.
anxious. Yeah. So you have cameras out already, right, for the season coming up?
Right now, I'm just running two, but for the 4th of July, my holiday will be spent doing some deer stuff. So I'm
Yeah,
gonna get out the other six cameras because I typically run 8 cameras. So I'm gonna get out the other six, get batteries in them, um, new cards, and typically I'm usually a little bit on it before this. I'm usually running cameras by early June, but I have been absolutely swamped with work, so that pays the bills
yeah,
right now.
yeah, yeah.
So I
So
gotta
on,
let that have the priority.
yeah, for sure, man. On the two that you have out, have you got any good pictures of anything on there?
Nothing. So like I got one buck that it was early in June, and the reason this camera's out is because it just stayed out. I ended up swapping batteries right before shed season, and it's just stayed out, and it's still got good batteries. But I had one deer in May, and I'm thinking it may be the deer that I was actually that has the really hard intern main beams.
Yep.
But all he had was hit the bases and a big knot at the end on each side. But he's a big deer, but
So
I
he
haven't got
very
a
well
picture of him
could
since.
be the one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
dude. Yeah, I've
But
been
that's it. I
going
got
out
that one
and
picture.
I quit using cameras. I think I touched on that earlier. Like I said on Old Gray, man. I I kind of just well, I started reading some stuff one time about how some of these big mature bucks they'll notice the camera, and if they do notice it, a lot of times that'll just drive them out of the area because they don't obviously don't like it and whatnot. And
Yeah,
sometimes it's true if you look at a picture of a deer, most of the time he's looking right at that camera. You know what I mean? And so
a
between
lot of
that
times.
and I just like that excitement, I kind of wanted to go back to the when I first got into bow hunting and you'd go out and you didn't really have you might know there's some good deer out here, but you didn't really have a clue as to where they were actually coming from, what time and whatnot. And so that excitement of it's kind of like Christmas morning when you see a nice buck walk in. You know what I mean? You're like, oh man, I've never even seen this deer before. I'm about to put it down. So I kind of quit using cameras. I've thought about putting some out early season, and but I haven't. I'll go out there and like I said, I'll take care of the weeds and stuff, make some paths. I'll throw some salt blocks out here and there, and then I just wait for opening day. Then it's like, okay, let's open the present. Let's see what's out here, man.
Yeah, that seems fun to me too because I have a buddy that did the same thing. We just went away from all his cameras, and he's like, I still enjoy hunting just as much, if not more. And he's like, I'm not fixated on a specific deer or two. Um, And he's like, it kind of like you said, he's like, it's just a surprise. Whatever shows up, if I think it'll excite me, I'm gonna shoot it, you know. And
Yeah.
that's something I think it's that's appealing to me as well. I don't know that I'll do it now. One of my favorite things about cameras is shed season. Like in the last 3 years, I've become a giant shed hunter. I mean, walking 800 miles every season for antlers. I like to use them for that. I like to know when, like, a target buck has dropped an antler or two or whatever, and then I'm like, all right, let's go. Let's hit the ground,
Yeah.
start looking for antlers, you know, because especially out there on, several of the places I hunt that are bordering public, those deer are coming off that public, you know, and
Yeah.
then going back on. So I know I have competition and trying to find those antlers, and that's how I know there's some giant deer on public because I pick up some big
Yeah.
antlers on public ground. So
Yeah. Yeah, we definitely
yeah.
got, especially around here, there are definitely some giant deer on some of our public land, and that gives me a little bit of drive to get deep into them public woods. You know what I've always wanted to do, man, is to take a kayak or a boat, go up the river, you know what I mean, to the back side of some public land or whatever. Obviously the goal, harvest a nice mature deer out of there and get them back to the truck. You know what I mean? I was like, I just think it's almost primitive to me. You know what I'm saying? But I just think, man, what a thrilling hunt that would be. And I know a couple people that's done it. You know what I mean? So
Hmm.
uh, I definitely want to try it sometime. But I know you're a good shed hunter. I I got a buddy, Greg Staggs. He always claims he's the world's worst shed hunter. I think I got him beat,
Yeah.
man. I'm a horrible
Yeah.
shed hunter. I basically got to step on that sucker, you know what I mean? And I'm like, how in the
Yeah.
world, but so I got a lot of respect for you guys that can just go out and find them sheds, man. Y'all got some good eyes. I got them old man
It's
eyes or
it's a
something, man. They ain't working.
it's a mixture of that, but I'll tell you, last year me and a buddy were shed hunting, and I spotted an antler from, I'd say, 75, 80 yards away. And he's like, "How the hell did
Sheesh.
you do that?" I'm like, "Dude, it just stuck
Yeah.
out. I saw it." So we found it. It was a good, probably 135-inch deer, left side. I'm like, "Sweet." So this is on public. So we're walking the edge of this field, and I look up and I'm like, "Oh, look, tree stand." And we're walking, looking at this tree stand, and my buddy actually like fell down. And we look over, and he tripped over the deer's other side.
Oh,
So we both,
wow.
I spotted one side from 80 yards away, and we both walked right over top of him. If he would not have kicked that antler and tripped on it, we would have walked right past it. We would have not seen it.
Yeah.
So
Well, I had
it's just
old
lucky.
Gray's I had old Gray
Yeah.
shed, and that's what happened. I was walking along, looking, and I just happened to look down, and I was standing right next to it, and I was like, "Oh my goodness, it's right here!" You know what I'm
Yeah. Yeah.
saying? Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
I've even threatened to get some of them. You heard of them? Dang, what are they called? I
Fun
think they're called
guys.
like fun. Yeah, fun guys.
Fun guys.
Have
Yeah.
you?
I have a
Yeah,
pair.
have you?
I have a pair.
Do you? So how do you like them?
So they worked really well on antlers that are naturally white or bleached, which I pick up any antler. I don't judge an antler. I'll pick up any antler, chewed, not chewed, whatever. But
Yeah.
like last year on public, but this is Kansas public. I found a hammer, a fucking, excuse my language, but it was a
No,
giant
you're all
antler
right.
with a big 7-inch drop tine, just an absolute hammer. And I had those fungi on, and I pretty much walked right up on it because it was chocolate. So we picked it up, and I was like, "Oh my god!" And I turned around, and like 50 yards away was a little 4-point side that was pretty white, and I spotted it from like 50 yards. But
With them
it's just hit or
glasses.
miss. I mean, yeah, yeah. So it really depends on lighting. If you walk with the sun at your back, it helps a ton. Cloudy days helps a ton. If it has any moisture, rain, those antlers almost seem to glow. I mean, I last year we're walking this field edge, and I saw an antler probably 25, 30 yards away, and it was more of a white antler, and I'm heading over to it, and I pick it up, and I'm like, nice, and then I look down at my feet, and there's a match set of chocolate
Oh,
horns. So there was
wow.
three antlers right on top of
Oh,
each other,
okay.
but I didn't see the match set that was right there, but I saw the white one. So
Yeah.
it's just one of those things where I miss them. I know I miss them just like anybody else, and it's just a matter of putting miles on, miles for piles,
Yeah.
and that's. It's true. I think we ended up with 152 antlers last year.
That is ridiculous.
Yeah,
I can't
800 miles we
imagine.
walked though.
Hey, I
Yeah,
need to go shed hunting with you sometime. You can show me the ropes because I'm
yeah,
clearly
dude. Well,
doing something wrong.
it's just miles. I mean, there's a lot of days where I was putting on 10 miles in a day, and some
Yeah.
some days
And
I'd
I
put
know
on 10
that's the
miles
thing.
for no. Yeah, I'd put on 10 miles for no antlers, and then some days I'd put on 2 miles and come home with 5 antlers. So
Yeah.
it's just getting in that area. I mean, those there's a lot of spots that have like walking trails through it. And you would be like, there's no way that there'd be a deer in there, but in these patches that have these walking trails, that's all they have is these patches. So I mean, there's one patch I pulled 7 antlers out of it, and
Oh,
it's no
wow.
bigger than 150 yards by 100 yards with a walking trail right to the middle of it. So
Yeah.
it really depends. If it's a patch of woods that I can legally get into, I will be in it.
Yeah.
And
And
we
that's the
just we
thing. I
just
think the biggest thing is getting your butt in the woods and walking. You got to be that.
Yep.
Obviously, like you can't kill deer from the couch. You ain't gonna find sheds from the couch neither. You know what I mean? You got to spend
No,
time in the
no,
woods,
you're
and
not.
that's just the way it is. And yeah,
I had a buddy
Eh,
take me. He's got access to some land out in Missouri. It's like 150 acres. It's pretty primo. But he says we never find sheds. I'm like, well, let's go check it out. The first we pulled up, we were still in his truck, and it's a little hunting cabin that they have up on a hill, and then all the properties down at the bottom. We pull up to the hunting cabin, and I'm in the truck, and I'm looking in the yard, and I'm like, "What is that?" And he's like, "Ah, I think it's a stick." And I get out and walk over there, and it's an antler laying right in the yard of
that is
this cabin that he's got.
ridiculous.
And I'm like, "I got one," and he's like, "That is ridiculous." We ended up finding like 4 antlers that day, and he's like, "Dude,
Yeah,
I've never found an antler one here." And I'm like, "You just gotta look, dude. You just gotta get out and walk."
yeah.
So
You got them
that's the
eyes.
secret.
I want to go with you. Yeah, for sure. We'll
Yeah,
have to arrange that up, man. I ain't even playing. I want to
yeah,
find a shed. You know what I mean?
yeah, absolutely,
So,
yeah.
how are you at morel mushroom hunting?
Well, I do that. So by the time mushroom season comes around, I'm pretty cooked from the sheds, but I have spots that I know. So I think this year, I think we found 350 or something like that.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
but I see them well. I think I only stepped on like three this year, so that's not terrible for the
Yeah,
year. But yeah, we do
I
that.
have.
It's a short season.
I have
Say it again.
like this year I may be good. I may find 200, 300 of them. Next year, I ain't finding zero. You know what I mean? It's like I have good
Yeah.
years, I have bad years. You know what I mean? And a lot of it's the timing, getting out there before everybody else does, getting out there when they're popping, whatnot. And so you got to work your magic. But I figured, if you're a good shed hunter, you probably got good eyes for them morels too.
Well, all during shed season, I'll tell myself, "Oh, I'm gonna come back here and mushroom hunt this. I'm gonna come back here and mushroom hunt this." And by the time mushroom season comes around, I'm so worn out from shed season. I go to like the 5 spots that I always know produce, and that's it. I get enough for
Yeah,
like to give some to my buddies, and then do a couple fries, and then I'm done. I'm out, and then
yeah,
it's the rest of the summer. It's like kind of relaxed time. Well, work time, but it's relaxed time on being in the woods.
yeah.
So,
Hey, one year, dude, I
well,
was
then
out.
you
One year I was
go
out and
ahead.
I was fighting ticks and whatnot. I'm walking deep into the woods, you know what I mean? And my wife calls and sends me pictures. She found morels in our backyard. I'm like, I'm out here
Yeah, yeah,
digging through these woods and you're finding them in the backyard. That's my
yep,
luck.
yeah. That'll happen. That will
Yeah.
happen. I never ever accidentally find mushrooms, but last year we were turkey hunting, and I stumbled into a batch of probably 65, and they were all around one tree. And I went back to that same spot this year. Not a single mushroom, not
Not
one
a one.
in that
Yeah,
spot.
that's crazy to me. It's like, that's what I was trying to hitting at earlier is that I can find them this year in this spot. I might find them this year in the next year in the same spot, and then it's like I won't find them for several years in that spot, and I'll be like, wait a minute, there was something about this spot that they were growing here, it's always I always got to go back to that spot. I still have spots that no matter what, I'm gonna go check them first because I've had good luck there before. You know what I mean? And the last couple of years, like those spots, I won't find one mushroom.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what in the world, man? I don't know. And then all of a sudden, the next year, you go
Yeah.
out there and you'll find 50 of them in one spot. It's crazy, man. Hey,
I've
Derek,
had
I don't
spots
want to
that
take up.
that pro-
Oh,
that
go ahead.
produce.
Sorry. Go
I've had
ahead.
spots that produced and then didn't produce for 5 years and then produced again. So it's just
Yeah,
same thing. You just got to be out there. You'll find them.
it's super random.
Yeah, it is. Yep.
But hey, I don't want to take up no more of your time, man. I appreciate you coming on here and telling your story. Congratulations on such a beautiful buck, man.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
He definitely a hammer, man, and what a great shot. Look at that shot placement.
Yeah, it was one of those ones where I watched the arrow go right where I wanted, and I was ecstatic.
Yeah, beautiful buck,
Yeah.
man. And
Thank you.
I ain't mad at you no more for shooting old gray. I forgive you. And it's
I appreciate
taken
that.
a
I
lot of
appreciate
years, but I forgive you, man. You're a good dude. You're a good hunter, man, and I'm honored to know you. And like I said, we'll hook up sometime. We'll go. You can go teach me how you do this shed hunting. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Just lace up your walking boots and let's go.
Yes, sir. Well, hey, everybody, I want to thank you for coming and checking out Camp Broadside, man, and checking out Mr. Derek Williams and his story. You know, I hope we were a little bit entertaining for you, and maybe you picked up some tips along the way. You know what I mean? And thank you, Derek, for sharing your personal experiences, man. It was a pleasure talking to you. I know you've got a little list of bucks I want to hear about, so we may have to get you on here again and go over another deer or two. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I've got a couple good stories. I got a couple good stories. So.
Yeah. Well, I look forward to it, man. Derek, congratulations again. Thank you for your time, man, and appreciate you. Camp Broadside, we'll catch you next time.